is a day that can be rife with all kinds of emotions. And when we put something on the calendar as a holiday, it is almost as if we're being legislated what it means. And who are we to do that? That this thing called mothering, motherhood is variable. That it is not something that can be defined in one certain way, and everybody's experience is certainly different. I know men who raise children, mother their children. I know women who father their children. And so there's this part of me that wants to stand here and honor what the world is celebrating this day, but I figure they got it covered. And so I want to talk about this in a different way today. I want to talk about the concept and the idea of the higher truth. I want to talk about what we see and experience in time. That which is birthed in time, we know ends in time. So these ideas and these concepts that we have contrived, that we have made in this life experience, while they were born in time and they will end in time, what we also know is that they're representative of something more. They're representative of something more. They go beyond the roles and the identities that we have made and created. Because roles and identities, folks, while they serve us in many ways, they help us to define a certain function in the world, they can also contain things like guilt, things like shame, things like I didn't do it right. And I say, according to whom? According to what standard? Whose standard? And so what I'm going to ask us to do in this conversation is to rise above what we hear in the world about this whole idea, because it's representative of something more. So most of us raised in a Judeo-Christian theology, a Judeo-Christian culture, really, you can't get away from it, even if you don't consider yourself religious, is that most of us have been raised in a world that is focused on the masculine. And so I ask you, is God a man? Is God male? Does God have a gender? We had some songs earlier just to balance things out. Sometimes we say Mother God. We seem to throw it in the pot just to show that we are enlightened in some way. And for many years, I did that. I wanted to give the feminine aspect of God, the feminine aspect, the female, some voice in our culture, in our religion, and in our society. And I've done that many years, but you know what? This year, that doesn't feel right to me either. That I even want to transcend those labels as well. Like there comes a time when, yes, you give that voice only to balance things. Mother, Father, God. Father, sky, Mother, earth. Only to the point where we can begin to even rise above those distinctions. I heard something this week that I've been chewing on all week, and I saw something this week that I've been thinking about that somehow has to do with this topic. And it was the interview of a woman who identified as, I forgot, what was it? Non-binary. Non-binary. Non-gender specific. And I just thought, wow, isn't that fascinating? I like to think I'm up on things. I like to think I know all of the different ways that people identify and the way that we give voice to identities that weren't represented or that were even criticized, so that we now give that voice so that it can come out from among us and be honored and loved. And I think that's fine and good, but at some point we fragment so much that we must remember and then return to oneness, to God, to love. The reason I love that term so much, that non-binary, is because I've stood up here often and I've said, folks, it's a binary proposition. Anybody ever hear me say that? It's a binary proposition. And what I mean by that is we're either ever choosing love or fear. It's one of the two in all of its manifestation: love, nurturing, beauty, grace, abundance, wholeness, perfection, or fear, attack, hatred, anger, angst, agitation, irritation, all of its various forms. Binary proposition, we're always ever choosing one or the other. It's your choice because your unlimited spirit transcends gender, is above and beyond your identifications in this experience. And so it's a binary proposition. Guess what? It really isn't. That's our step then to go back to the beginning. If there is only God, and there's only love, and there's only oneness, how can there be something else? How can there really, truly be a choice? So we say that we have free will, and we do have free will to choose. But in our choosing, there's only one truth and only one reality, and that is God is love, as peace, as joy. And all of this over here, all this that we call fear, is simply that cry for love. All that we call fear simply is an illusion and does not exist. And so that's what caught me. I thought, oh my God, is that ever enlightened? That we go from fragmentation to binary to non-binary to pure non-dualistic. And so that's what comes up for me on Mother's Day. That's like completely unlike anything that seems like I should be talking about today. But I think that it's important, because I think it's important for us to remember that all of the variation, all of the different ways that we appear in this world is really going to end in this experience as well. And that it is our teacher. It is our way to help us to learn to transcend so that we may get to that non-binary oneness perception and perspective. So we say that we are as God created us to be, that we are spirit first and foremost, and that this expression and this experience, if we are spirit, we chose it. We chose it. And so one of the things that I wanted to just share with you is that whatever meaning you give mother, whatever meaning you give Mother's Day, whatever meaning you give mothering, and I guarantee you every person is experiencing something different this day. Every person is. And I'm here to say whatever you're perceiving and experiencing is absolutely perfect for you. Absolutely perfect for your awakening. So happy Mother's Day. However it is that you see it, however it is that you perceive it, because whatever that experience is, it is that perfect stepping stone to rise above. We all have a mother's story. We all have a mother's story. We all have one. Some that we might call good and some that we might call not so good. You know, I mentioned that we have an opening in our youth and family ministry. And a story came up that I wanted to bring when I was at Agape International, Reverend Michael Beckwith's church out in Culver City, California. He told a story. So this is actually his story. And he said that he was with the children, and they have a children's ministry that would fill this whole building. And he was with the kids, and he came into the class and they were doing an exercise and he wasn't quite sure what it was, but a kid came up to him and put his hand on Reverend Michael's heart and said, "No mistakes, no mistakes." And Reverend Michael's like, what? And it's like, we're practicing namaste. But the child was saying, no mistakes, no mistakes, no mistakes. And so as you look at your Mother's Day story, as you look at whether you're a mother, you have a mother, there's something, whatever it is that comes up for you, remember that there are no mistakes. Think of this. We teach this in our class, and sometimes this boggles the mind because people are like, no way. Consider that you chose your entry into this experience. You chose your mother. You chose the people who you would come through, those who you would come through in this experience. I've had people say, there's no way. There's absolutely no way I would have ever picked that. And I'm here to say, consider it. Just consider that there are no mistakes. Consider that as unlimited spirit, you chose this experience. Consider that there is a point of perfection here that you're added, and so is everything in your experience at a point of perfection. Now, my mother's story goes like this. See what you can identify in yours, because I have my own lessons in this, but my mother's story is that my mother was the first love of my life. I've said that always. You know, people go through life and they say a certain partner is the first love of their life. But I always knew my mom was my first love of my life. I came in and through her in this experience, and I know I chose her. I know that we had a special relationship. I know this because she called me Angel. I was her little angel. I was her angel until the 6th grade. And when she took me to school and introduced me as Claudia, and I'm like, who's Claudia? I'm Angel. And so things shifted and changed, but I was my mom's angel until she had grandchildren. Then they were her angel. And what I came to know is that there were many angels in her life and that I didn't have to be her one and only. And so I chose to come into this experience. I came into this experience and I fell in love with my mom, like many of us do. And it's been an interesting journey because at some point in that relationship, the roles and the identities got shifted. And just like any close relationship, some of the deficiencies, some of the error thinking in one person matches perfectly with the other. And they can call this codependency. They can call this being enmeshed with another and their dynamic and their story. But we were a perfect fit. And we went through life for a period of time like that until what happened, I needed to mature and grow, and at one point separate. And in so doing, I began to see this person that I had put on a pedestal, and I began to see some flaws, and I began to see some things that I didn't care for. And what happens when we put people on a pedestal? They tend to fall off. And so there was an era, a period of time of questioning, of forgiveness, of learning, of growing, only to find out that the perfect fit that we were was exactly what I needed in order to grow and to learn in the unique ways that I needed to grow and learn. And then the last phase at this point is, after the fallen and forgiven phase, was a risen and a timeless phase. A phase of having forgiven, having been on the other side, having come to know that I picked her. She picked me too, but I picked her too. I had choice in this, and that it was absolutely perfect, and that if I'm as God created me to be, and I'm perfect child of God, hey, guess what? So is she. And she's on this journey just like I am. And rather than pigeonholing her in this mother category, I can begin to see her as Christ, as a beloved child of God, having this experience, forgetting her perfection, and that I get to see that for her, that our relationship rises to a new level, to a level that transcends roles and genders, to a level that reaches and touches the eternal. What I came to see in reviewing my mother's story was that there was a birth, there was a curriculum period, there was a death of the old relationship, and then there was a resurrection of a new relationship. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Isn't that the story that we teach in Christianity? The birth of Jesus, his curriculum and learning and awakening, the death of the body and the old, and a resurrection and a rising of something new. There's a pattern of perfection in your journey with your mother. The journey with my mother is now at a stage, which some of you know, where she doesn't know who I am. She doesn't remember that I'm her daughter. There was a time, and I know I shared it with this community, when the thought of that happening, I would just collapse in sadness and tears at the prospect of my mom not knowing who I am, or at the prospect of her not being in this physical experience anymore. Today, as I go and I visit her and I sit with her, she's teaching me the timelessness of it all. She's teaching me still that there is love and there is a relationship beyond her remembering her role as my mother. That I get to sit with her and just love her, not as my mother, but as Christ, as love, as a fellow journeyer on this experience. That memory doesn't matter. That memory doesn't matter. That we can transcend these roles. That we don't need to pigeonhole people in them. That there comes a time when we must be non-binary, where we must return to wholeness and love. That this was a game in a way, that this was a drama in a way of my own making, so that I could journey home and remember the truth. So the first love of my life, of this experience, is still teaching me. And she will go on teaching me. And there will always be an eternal connection with this being. And in another life, she might be my sister. In another life, I might be her mother. And in another life, it could be just who knows what. You know? That we transcend these, that we go beyond this. And so my question is, for you, can you get to the point in your concept of mother, in your concept of what this means, where you can see symbolically what it is for you, what that story has been for you, how it teaches you, how you can rise above the label of mother, daughter, son, of that role, that you can rise above and see a person beyond, take them off the pedestals that we put people on. And I don't say that not to see their Christ. I say that those are human-made stories, pedestals, that we can begin to take them off so that we can meet them face to face, not through a glass darkly, face to face, Christ to Christ, love to love, love to a cry for love, whatever your story calls for. Because the Divine Mother is love. The Divine Mother loves fearlessly, defenselessly. Divine Mother, unconditional. Divine Mother, fiercely holds to the perfection and truth, takes a stand for that fiercely. Fiercely. Mama bear-like. That's not the truth of you. I know the truth of you. How do you mother the people in your life? How do you nurture the people in your life? How do you nurture your relationship with God? How do you nurture the divine ideas that are the seeds that have been given to you that you know are divine ideas? Do you take them into the fertile soil of your consciousness and allow them to grow and take root, that they may be expressed in this experience? That we are all mothers, that we are all nurturing, that we are all built for that, that you cannot have that giving without that divine receptivity, that divine love, that fierce, single-minded stand for truth and love for another. Can you do that for yourself? Can you do that for yourself? And when you go out in the world and you see the world celebrating this thing called Mother's Day, can you transcend the idea of who and what you think a mother is and say it to all, to everyone, and watch how people take it? What do you mean? What do you mean? I mean that this is about all of us. And so the song and the music has been about, are you willing to receive? Are you willing to receive? To me, that is the divine ultimate quality, that receptivity of the gifts of the universe. And so watch your life today. Your life is going to give you the perfect opportunities to cultivate the soil of your ability to receive. If there's an angst, if you're triggered in some way, take a breath. Isn't that interesting? Reverend Claudia said something like, this is an opportunity to cultivate the soil of my consciousness. What the heck does that mean? And do I have the right tools? Yes, you do. You do. We just join in divine mind and heart with spirit. We do what we practice here. We take a breath, we pause, we notice. I'm unlimited spirit. So are they. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity of my own self. I don't know what this means. So I think I will join. I'll join with spirit, with God, with this thing that she says is all that is, this creator, this source, this divine mother, this holy father. Whatever works for you, I will join in that mind and offer it to the awakened mind within my own being. What is the truth? And I'll listen and I'll pause. And an idea will come, a thought, an impulse, a calm, a peace. Receive it, accept it. Don't brush it aside. Just go, I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut right now. Interesting, haven't done that one before. Think I'll try that. You'll survive. It'll be okay. You'll be given something. Receive it, accept it, trust it, allow it, and let it be. That is that divine receptivity. I am willing to receive. I am willing to receive. I am willing to be whole. I am willing to be healthy. I am willing to be abundant. I am willing to love. And as you call all that forth, see what pops up that says, nah, can't have that. You got a diagnosis that says you can't. Ridiculous. We're here to rise above, to take a stand. And so I say, holy and beloved beings of God, of spirit, that we go forth this day, that we multiply this consciousness of love, that we accept and receive the gifts that are before us, and that we rise, that we are made new, that we see this day in a different way. God bless you, and I love you all.